What if the person who looks the richest in the room is actually the least wealthy? Think about it. You see someone driving an expensive car, wearing designer clothes, living in a beautiful house, and posting luxury vacations online. Your brain immediately makes a conclusion. They're rich. But what if they're not? What if the car is financed? What if the house comes with a massive mortgage? What if the designer clothes are sitting on a credit card balance? And what if the person quietly building wealth is driving an ordinary car, wearing simple clothes, and living a life nobody notices? That's the difference between looking rich and being rich. And understanding that difference could completely change the way you think about money. Because looking rich is about what other people can see. Being rich is about what you own, what you keep, and how much financial freedom you actually have. Let's break down the difference. 1. Looking rich is about appearance. Looking rich is surprisingly easy. You don't necessarily need millions of dollars. You need access to expensive things. A luxury car. A designer watch. A premium apartment. An expensive restaurant. A vacation at a famous destination. A new smartphone. And today, social media makes this even easier. Someone can spend an afternoon creating the appearance of a luxurious lifestyle and make thousands of strangers believe they're wealthy. But here's the problem. Appearance doesn't tell you anything about financial health. Imagine two people. Person A earns $100,000 a year and spends almost all of it. Person B earns $70,000 and consistently saves and invests a large portion of their income. Person A might look much richer. They may have the better car, bigger house, and more expensive clothes. But person B may actually be building far more wealth. The difference is simple. Person A is using income to create an image. Person B is using income to create assets. And assets are what eventually create financial freedom. 2. Being rich is often invisible. Real wealth is often boring. That's one reason people misunderstand it. You don't necessarily see someone's retirement account. You don't see their investment portfolio. You don't see their emergency fund. You don't see the debt they paid off. You don't see the business they own. You don't see the assets generating income while they're sleeping. Most of the things that create wealth aren't visually impressive. That's why someone can look completely ordinary and still be financially independent. Think about a person who drives a 10-year-old car. They don't constantly upgrade their phone. They don't post luxury vacations. They don't buy expensive clothes to impress people. From the outside, they might look average. But maybe they have no consumer debt. Maybe they have years of living expenses saved. Maybe they've invested consistently for 20 years. Maybe their investments generate enough income to cover their lifestyle. That person might not look rich, but they may have something much more valuable. Freedom. 3. Looking rich requires spending. Here's the irony. To look rich, you usually need to spend money. Want the expensive car? Spend money. Want the designer clothes? Spend money. Want the luxury vacation? Spend money. Want the newest technology every year? Spend money. The appearance of wealth often requires constant consumption. And consumption has a problem. Once you spend the money, it's gone. That doesn't mean spending money is bad. Enjoying your money is part of life. The problem begins when your spending exists mainly to communicate your status to other people. Because then you're working harder to impress people who may not even be paying attention. You might spend thousands of dollars trying to look successful while quietly delaying the financial independence you actually want. 4. Wealth is built through ownership. Now consider the opposite. Instead of using every extra dollar to upgrade your lifestyle, you use some of it to acquire assets. You invest. You build a business. You buy productive assets. You develop valuable skills that increase your future earning potential. You pay down expensive debt. You build financial reserves. These decisions might not make you look richer tomorrow, but they can make you financially stronger over time. And that's the key difference. Looking rich is about consumption. Building wealth is about ownership. The more productive assets you own, the more potential sources of future income and growth you create. That's why someone with a modest lifestyle can eventually become financially independent. They aren't necessarily trying to look successful. They're trying to become financially secure. 5. The social media trap. Social media has made the difference between appearance and reality even harder to see. You scroll through your feed and see luxury cars, private jets, designer clothes, expensive restaurants, five-star hotels, people announcing huge financial wins. And suddenly, your own life feels ordinary. You start thinking, everyone else is doing better than me. But you're comparing your entire life to carefully selected moments from someone else's life. You don't see their debt. You don't see their financial mistakes. You don't see their bad months. You don't see what they sacrificed to create that image. You only see what they decided to show you. And this creates a dangerous cycle. You see someone looking rich. You want to look rich too. So you spend more. Then you need to earn more to support that lifestyle. So you work more. And eventually, you become trapped by the lifestyle you created. The appearance of success becomes a financial burden. 6. The car example. Let's take one of the most obvious examples. Cars. Imagine you earn a good salary. You could buy a reliable car that costs $25,000. Or you could finance a $70,000 luxury vehicle. The second option makes you look wealthier. People notice it. They compliment it. You feel successful when you drive it. But the monthly payment, insurance, maintenance, and depreciation can consume a significant portion of your income. Now imagine instead that you choose the cheaper car and invest the difference. Nobody sees that investment account when you're driving down the road. But years later, the difference could become enormous. This is the strange thing about wealth. The decision that makes you look less successful today may make you far more successful tomorrow. 7. Rich people don't always look rich. One of the biggest misconceptions about wealthy people is that they all live extravagant lifestyles. Some do, but many don't. There are wealthy people who live relatively modestly. They don't need strangers to know how much money they have. They don't need a luxury car to prove they've succeeded. They don't need designer clothes to feel successful. Why? Because their financial position gives them something more important than status. Security. They can handle emergencies. They have options. They can leave a job they hate. They can take time off. They can help their families. They can invest in opportunities. They don't need every purchase to make a statement. That's a completely different relationship with money. 8. The status trap. Humans naturally care about status. We want to be respected. We want to feel successful. We want other people to recognize our achievements. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But money becomes dangerous when status becomes the goal. Because there's always someone richer. You buy a luxury car. Someone else has a more expensive one. You buy a large house. Someone else has a mansion. You take a luxury vacation. Someone else travels first class around the world. If your goal is to impress people, you'll never reach the finish line. There will always be another level, another product, another upgrade, another person to compare yourself with. But if your goal is financial freedom, the game changes. You don't need to beat everyone else. You only need to build a financial life that works for you. 9. Income is not wealth. Here's another mistake people make. They assume a high income means someone is wealthy. Not necessarily. Income is the money you receive. Wealth is what remains after your financial obligations and what you've accumulated over time. Someone can earn $300,000 a year and spend $295,000. Another person can earn $100,000 and consistently invest $25,000. The first person has a higher income, but the second person may be building wealth more effectively. That's why chasing income without controlling spending can create an endless cycle. You earn more. You spend more. You need even more income. Then you earn more again. And the cycle repeats. The goal isn't simply, how can I earn more? It should also be, how much of what I earn can I turn into long-term wealth? 10. The wealthy mindset. Being rich isn't about refusing to spend money. It's about understanding what your money is doing. Before making a large purchase, ask, is this improving my life? That's reasonable. But also ask, am I buying this because I genuinely want it, or because I want other people to think I'm successful? That second question is powerful, because if your motivation is status, you're not just buying an object, you're buying approval. And approval can become extremely expensive. Instead, try to build a financial system where your money has different jobs. Some money pays for your lifestyle. Some protects you from emergencies. Some is invested for the future. And some can be used for things you genuinely enjoy. That's a much healthier relationship with money. 11. Stop trying to look wealthy. You don't need to prove you're successful. You don't need to explain your income. You don't need to show everyone what you bought. You don't need to keep up with someone else's lifestyle. You don't even need other people to know that you're building wealth. In fact, one of the most powerful financial habits is becoming comfortable with looking ordinary while becoming financially stronger. Drive the older car. Keep the phone for another year. Skip the purchase that doesn't matter. Invest the difference. Pay off the debt. Build the emergency fund. Increase your skills. Build assets. And let your financial position grow quietly. Because eventually, the goal isn't to look rich. It's to reach a point where money gives you choices. 12. The real definition of rich. So what does it actually mean to be rich? It's not necessarily a luxury car. It's not a designer watch. It's not a giant house. It's not an expensive vacation. Real wealth is having enough financial strength that you aren't completely controlled by your next paycheck. It's having options. It's having security. It's being able to handle unexpected problems. It's having assets that can potentially grow over time. It's having control over your time. And perhaps most importantly, it's not needing to prove anything to anyone. The person who looks rich might have thousands of dollars worth of things. The person who is actually wealthy might have something far more valuable. Financial freedom. So the next time you see someone living an incredibly luxurious lifestyle, don't automatically assume they're wealthy. And don't automatically feel behind. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Instead, ask yourself a different question. Am I becoming financially stronger every year? Because that's the game that matters. Not looking successful. Not impressing strangers. Not keeping up with your neighbors. Not winning some imaginary competition. The real goal is to build a financial life where your money works for your future instead of your future working endlessly for your lifestyle. So remember, looking rich is about what people see. Being rich is about what you own, what you keep, and how much freedom you have. And sometimes, the smartest financial move you can make is to look ordinary while quietly becoming wealthy. If you want more videos about money psychology, wealth building, and the financial habits that separate long-term wealth from temporary appearances, subscribe to Money Secrets. Because the goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to become free.